It's way, way, way past my bedtime, but I did take an afternoon nap, so that might explain why I'm up at this ungodly hour. And I was watching a new video by Murad Murali. He's a British YouTuber, and it's about this guy, Thomas Kingston, the relative of Prince William. You remember how he sort of just like suddenly died? He allegedly committed suicide. And so Murad is taking a deep dive into it. So let's just listen for a short bit.
Thomas Kingston. What happened to this man? What took place? There are only questions and not enough answers, in my opinion. My name is Murad Merali. This is my second deep dive when it comes to the royal family. Please do subscribe to the channel and let's have a look. Shall we? Now, it's important to know that Thomas Kingston was a financier who married into the royal family after a summer proposal on the island of Sark almost 6 years ago. He was the husband of Prince and Princess Michael of Kent's daughter, Lady Gabriella Kingston, 56th in the line to the throne. Known as Tom, he was also a close friend of Pippa Middleton, the Princess of Wales' sister, with the pair seen out and about together on numerous occasions. 2011, Thomas Kingston had links to the royal family long before Lady Gabriella, having allegedly dated Pippa Middleton around the time of Kate and William's wedding in 2011.
Okay, so he goes on and on about, Kingston and his connection to the royal family and to Kate and Pippa. And in the end, as he said, there are more questions than answers. And so I'm trying to think to myself, what is my analysis of all of this, if anything? Like, what can I possibly say? I mean, he did point out that, suicide among men is, especially men of this age and maybe a little bit younger, is not uncommon. And he quite shockingly said that he had also attempted suicide, which, just leaves you with all kinds of just, I don't even know what the emotion would be just to hear someone actually admit that, I mean, it's very brave, but it's also like, oh my God, it's very chilling as well. Um, could this man have just committed suicide because he was just desperately unhappy? Yes, of course he could have. Maybe I mean, I don't want to say anything about his marriage, whether he was happy or not. I have no idea. I never met the guy, never knew him before this, before his suicide. He's famous because of his suicide. But what I do find curious personally is the sort of timeline of his suicide, in the sense that apparently he, with all, everything else being held constant, he's a financier. He dated Pippa. He dated an ex-girlfriend of William. He was friends with Kate and I guess with William, and Gabriella, his wife, is a relative of the Windsors. And they had this romantic wedding. They were in love. He had a good job. They had money. Everything was great. And then and then he commits suicide. Look, and it's, again, men can have all of these surface things and they seem quite happy, and yet, you know, they do something like this, right? But what I find curious is his father's testimony, or his father's, what is alleged to have been his father's account of what happened. It says that this young man, he went over, he's not a young man, I think he's in his 50s, so he's like a middle-aged man. Okay, he's a grown man, he's an adult. He's been through his most difficult years, of uncertainty and trying to figure out who you are. He's now middle-aged, going towards, his more senior years, and he's married, right? He's not a baby, he's married, and he's married a good 5, 6 years, something like that. And he goes over to his parents' house to visit them, right? Obviously intending to commit suicide, which is weird, as Murad said. I mean, if you're going to commit suicide, you're going to want to do this somewhere where you're alone, where nobody can interrupt you. You don't want to be stopped. You don't want to be interrupted. I'm thinking, right? You may even feel a bit of shame, a little bit of desperation, but you don't want to be stopped. So you're not going to go and sort of kill yourself in front of someone who can stop you and say, stop it. You're going to be fine and talk you out of what you intend to do. I mean, it's kind of like people who commit suicide on the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco before they made some adjustments to the bridge. I mean, apparently they start running towards the bridge before they even fully get to the spot so that they can jump. They don't want to be stopped, right? They don't want to be stopped. So what's curious to me is that this man wants to do something so drastic and so shocking and so final and so dramatic that he goes home to his parents. Okay, one could say, well, maybe he went to say goodbye. Yes, but then he would naturally, I think, leave after saying goodbye. He wouldn't stay there and commit the act there under normal circumstances. Look, everybody's different, obviously. But what's even more curious is it sounds like they're saying that he then went to some kind of barn or a little house, little cabin, little tool house, whatever, stables, whatever it is. I don't even know, that was on the property of his parents, and he locked himself inside that property, and then he shot himself in the head. According to the reports, if my understanding is correct, do correct me if I'm wrong, his father was out for a walk or he was away from the house at the time. The father, they had met, they had talked. Then this guy, Kingston, allegedly went off to some little cabin, outhouse, stable, whatever, on the property of his parents, right, with a gun. Meanwhile, his father had stepped away for a walk or whatever for about 30 minutes. I've heard that time frame mentioned. And then when he came back, Kingston, this young man, was not there. What is curious to me is the fact that his father immediately went to this outhouse to find his son, this barn where the son apparently and allegedly had locked himself inside. It seems very suspicious from my way of thinking because if the father is not there, he's gone for 30 minutes. His son, I'm assuming his son didn't come and say, Dad, I'm going to go into the barn and kill myself. He didn't, he's not going to say that to his father. I know he didn't say that because the father went out for a long walk for 30 minutes, right? If your son comes home and says, I'm going to kill myself, you're probably going to hang around a little bit to make sure that he doesn't do anything stupid. And you're not going to let him go off into a barn and lock himself in, right? So I don't think he told his father that he was going to go into this barn to kill himself. But the father goes away for 30 minutes, comes back. The son is not in the main house. This is a 56-year-old. He's not 12. And he immediately jumps to the conclusion that something is wrong, that the son is not only in trouble, but that he's in the barn in trouble. Think about it, right? If you come home from after a 30-minute walk, you don't know what's been going on in the house. You don't know where anybody else is. Why did you assume right away that he's in the barn? Could he not have been in another part of the house, the main house, like the bathroom, like his room? Could he not have gone on a walk himself? Could he not have taken his car? I'm assuming he has a car and driven somewhere. Okay, maybe if the car is still in the garage, could he not have gone for a walk somewhere in the neighborhood? Why did the father assume immediately that this guy had locked himself into a barn in the yard? He would have had to have been clairvoyant, I think, to just put that together like that, because in this kind of situation, days could have gone by before they found this guy, if they really don't know where he went and what happened, right? Because you go into a barn and you lock yourself in, who could possibly guess that that's what you did? How does a person who wasn't even home at the time, he went for a long walk and he comes back and he just automatically assumes he's in the barn? Okay, you could say, well, maybe his wife said, well, he went in the direction of the barn. This is possible. But then why I mean, did the wife hear the gunshots perhaps? And if she did, why did she wait until the husband came home to go check on her own son? Why is it that the husband had to first come home, discover that the son, a 56-year-old adult, not a child, not a 12-year-old, an adult who could have gone anywhere at all for a walk, um, in the basement, in his old room, whatever, right? Whatever, anywhere at all. Why would you assume that he's in this outhouse or whatever, locked in? And Murad makes a good point that these types of homes that we're talking about are locked from the outside, not the inside. But apparently, this guy had locked himself in and had somehow shot himself in the head. There was no description of the gun, there was no talk of his fingerprints on the gun. And everything was so quick, everything was so hush hush. The coroner report just was like, let's just get this over and done with. His family was just quick to accept everything. So, look, is it possible this guy suffered from depression? Yes, it's very possible he suffered from depression all his life, and maybe they knew that he suffered from depression. He could have even been on antidepressants. We don't even know. They probably knew he was depressed, and maybe just assume that he tried to kill himself. But I think it's a very strange assumption to jump from he came for a visit and he went into the barn to kill himself. It's too specific. It's too specific, right? There's something that is a little bit too specific about this conclusion, right? As if you knew ahead of time that where he was going to go and what he was going to do. And if you did, why did you go for a walk and leave your son to do something like this? Unless your son said to you, Dad, I'm going into the yard, I'm going to go in the barn, I'm going to lock myself in, I'm going to shoot myself in the head. You go for a walk, and when you come back, come and rescue me. That's the only way. Otherwise, he normally, I think, would have been in this place. He could have been there until he decomposed before they found him. In fact, it sounds like to me, right? Because who would have thought that he would just go into the yard and lock himself in and kill himself in this way? I mean, I don't know this guy once again. Then Murad brings up some other points about how the press were quick to say William had nothing to do with it. Unless the father knew that this is a place where this guy hung out with William. I mean, in the sense that, um, they're saying that William had seen him days before or something like that, or hours before, or something like that. Is it a situation where this guy was used to going in this room, and that what does it have to do with William? I don't understand this. Was this a place that he used to hang out with William? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense the way the press was so quick to rope William into it. What does William have to do with anything? And if William had nothing to do with it, he never made a statement saying, I have nothing to do with that. Please don't rope me into this. Because he typically would make a statement. He made no statement. So he was fine with the press roping his name into this mess, right? The father knew exactly where to find the son. And etc., etc., etc. Very bizarre, very bizarre. So, I mean, it is, I think, an open secret that this guy and William and Kate were very good friends. So it's possible that whatever is in the yard, what this barn is, may be a place they hang out, as friends. Everybody hangs out there as friends. Murad talks about the marks on William's neck shortly after this strange death. Look, what motive would William have for something like this? I mean, I don't know. I don't know. And then shortly thereafter, William apparently was when he just last minute dropped out of the memorial service for his godfather, King Constantine of Greece. And Kate seemingly is avoiding William. At least some people's interpretation is that she's avoiding William. Even when she did the cancer video, she apparently said she didn't want William there with her. She apparently and allegedly said, I wasn't there. She didn't tell me this. This is what I've been reading. I have no idea. All of this is speculation and conjecture. I'm just trying to understand all the moving parts and all the data. But apparently, Kate wanted nothing to do with William in terms of um, sitting with her on their bench to tell everybody she has cancer. She wanted nothing to do with taking a new wedding photo with William. Um, I mean, just no appearances with William lately since Christmas, and even then there was a lot of distance between them. They always put the children in between them for several months, if not years now, in public. And yeah, very, very interesting. Anyway, so check out the video on Murad's channel. It's a deep dive video called "What Happened to Thomas Kingston." It's interesting. I don't know what happened to him. Well, he's dead. That's what happened to him. Um, how it all played out, I have no idea. I have no idea. Okay, rest in peace, sir. That's all I can say at this point. What are your thoughts?